Hey everybody. Hey everybody. This is your girl Rha Goddess, founder and CEO of Move the Crowd. And we are officially live. And this is my last post before our big event, which I promise I'll talk about at the end of our time together tonight. But I'm coming live to you tonight, particularly in response to a lot of questions that we've been getting in the comments section as it relates to cultivating tribe, and particularly cultivating a world-class tribe. And so in the little bit of time that we're going to have together tonight, I'm going to talk a little bit about what are some of the things that you think about when you want to build tribe? How do you define tribe, first of all? And then what are the things that you think about when you're looking to put together your tribe? And then I had some very specific questions about, what happens when you've got members of your tribe that may not be gelling or it may not be working, and how do you address and engage and resolve for members of the tribe where you may be having a challenge with, or you may be having a difficulty with, and how do you transition those relationships in good form, in the highest form possible. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So the first thing I have to say is shout out to my tribe. I feel very, very fortunate in having one of the most amazing tribes, I believe, in the world. And I want to really acknowledge that I had a tribe moment, as you all know, around the passing of my father a few weeks ago. And the way that my community embraced me, the way that my members of my tribe and all of the different facets of my tribe surrounded me and just wrapped their arms around me was another affirmation of the power and the beauty of building and cultivating phenomenal relationships over time in all kinds of aspects. I will be forever grateful for all of the ways that you, my tribe, those of you out there who know who you are, who really just came through for me in so many different ways. And so I want to say that, it has been a lifelong project and a lifelong journey to build an amazing tribe. And I want to say that because for those of you who may be, you're just kind of getting started, you're in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, but you're just starting to kind of understand what's important to you in relationship, what's important to you in the types of relationships that you cultivate, that to know that you will spend your life cultivating and curating your tribe, meaning there will be people who will come into the circle, there may be people who fall out of the circle, and I say that with love, right? It's not about sort of shoving people out or ostracizing or alienating people, but it is part of the natural rhythm and the flow and the pattern of life that people come, what do they say, for a reason, for a season, or for a lifetime. So when we start to look at this, opportunity to think about building tribe and building tribe in a very conscious and intentional way, the first thing I'm going to say to you is to look at how do you define tribe. When I'm in conversations with the entrepreneurs that we serve, and they're often raising, this issue about tribe and wanting to cultivate tribe and wanting to build tribe, often it's about like-mindedness. It's about like-spiritedness. It might be about sharing common vision, right? But you want to think about what are the things that are most important to you as you're considering cultivating and building and expanding a network. And it's interesting because network used to be sort of the term that we would use a lot in business. Oh, you have to cultivate your network and build your network. And the word tribe has emerged probably, I would say, in the last 3 to 4 years because we're looking for another level of authenticity. We're looking for another level of connection. We're looking for another level of relationship that's a little deeper than like, here's my business card, here's your business card, let's do lunch maybe sometimes, or, I'll only call you when I need you, or I'm evaluating you based on what I think I need or based upon what I think I might need at a certain moment, right? And we're inviting us, and all of us, I'm inviting you, and I would say that the times we're in are inviting us to look at a much deeper level and to consider the ways in which we're connecting and building relationship that really come from a much more in-depth and authentic place, right? So why would you want tribe? When I think about, for example, my tribe and what it is that I look to my tribe for, I look for connection. I look for inspiration. I look for motivation. I look for appreciation. I look for collaboration. I look for support. I look for partnership. So those are the things that I look for. So it'd be interesting for you even just to take a minute right now. I'll literally give you like 15 seconds to just look at what's on your list when you think about why you would want to build a kind of intimate, robust, multifaceted community around you. What would you be wanting that community to provide, right? There are different roles that people play in the context of tribe, right? So I'm going to give you a minute to jot down what you're looking for, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about what the different roles are, right? So in the context of the different roles, people show up as peers, they show up as mentors, they show up as sponsors, they show up as advisors, they show up as partners or collaborators, they show up as mentees, right? I named the mentee because often when we think about our tribe, we sort of think about the utility of what individuals can do for us or what collectives can do for us that may be more transactional. But we ought to be thinking about who are we mentoring? Who are we nurturing? Who are we cultivating as we're building and growing and moving along the path? You know, we used to have formal structures of apprenticeship, right, and mentorship in various crafts, and those kinds of practices unfortunately have fallen by the wayside in our modern times. However, this idea of always looking at, you know, are you holding the hand of an elder, and are you holding the hand of a youth, however you define the youth, and are you completing the circle of knowledge and completing the circle of wisdom is really important to think about as you're considering building tribe and cultivating tribe. The other thing you're thinking about is, okay, what's my personal tribe versus what my professional tribe is, right? Often when you're considering personal tribe, you're looking at the quality of the individual. Do I like this person? Do I think this person is a good person at their very core, at their very essence, right? Do we share common interests? Right? In other words, do we like to do the same things? Or are we into the same kinds of things when we think about hobbies or things that pique our curiosity or things that are, you know, connected to what we're passionate about? We also look at, do they share our values, which is a big conversation. Often when we find people having clashes in the context of their tribes, there's a values disconnect. We may not share the same values. Now, there are some people who will say, I really want to be surrounded by people who think like me, people who are committed to the same things I'm committed to, people who are passionate about the same things I'm passionate about. But I will also tell you that there are some people who are like, you know what? I don't need to have everybody think like me. I actually like the possibility of having greater diversity in my tribe. And I'm actually looking for people who think differently than I think, who might be into things that are different than what I'd be into. Maybe they're there to expand my horizons, both in the context of the things that I engage in, as well as in the context of the things that I think about or the way that I think about certain things. So it's important for you to consider, you know, the benefit and the power of having diversity in your tribe as well, right? So yes, you want to have potentially there are certain values that, you know, are non-negotiables for you, like they need to share a value of peace, or they need to share a value of being committed to making the world a better place, right, for other people, or they need to share values that are rooted in justice and equality, right? You know, for my social justice peeps out there, right? That's really, really important. But you also may have people who have different sets of perspectives and different sets of values about different things, and your ability to potentially be open to that and to consider the possibility to be able to build kindred relationships, right, within the context of your tribe across potential perceived differences is a real value. And I'm going to say to you, particularly as you grow and deepen and expand your tribe, your ability to build those connections and build those bridges becomes actually imperative to your success. So Bianca, I see you have a question, so I'm going to dive in for a question and then continue to sort of talk about this. So how do you express yourself? It's so great. When you're looking for tribe, first of all, you're considering what are the events, what are the opportunities to engage in events and experiences with people who potentially share my interests. That's usually the first place that you go out. So whether it's a professional networking event or whether it's a personal interest or passion event, you're often starting to look at what are the things that I'm interested in, what are the things that I'm passionate about, what are the things that I feel are worthy of my time and my energy and my presence, and that's usually the place where you begin. So when you come into those rooms, especially if you're rolling by yourself and you don't know people, you want to begin to have conversations. And the way that you're starting to share about the conversations, or the way that you're beginning to open those conversations, is that you are sharing about what are the things that you're passionate about. You are sharing about what are the things that you love. When I often come into a room, especially if it's new tribe, there's a lot of people I don't know, I actually love to come in asking questions. I love to lead with my curiosity, because often when I lead with my curiosity, I'm inviting people from the beginning to open up and share more about who they are. I become very, very interested in other people's stories. I become very, very interested, genuinely so, in other people's perspectives. And that invites them and encourages them to share more. And that creates an environment where they're also more open to receiving me and giving me the room and the space to share about who I am and what I do and what I'm up to. And the ways often that I can tell that I'm in the presence of tribe is that they're as anxious to know about me as I am to know about them. And you all know what I'm talking about. Sometimes we come into interactions where that person is more than happy to take up all the air and all the oxygen and talk endlessly about who they are. And listen, if they're interesting and dynamic, that can be a lot of fun, right? But if they're not as interesting or dynamic, or they're a little self-centered, or they're a little egotistical, right, with love, just speaking the truth with love, that may also give you some clues about whether or not this person might be a good tribe member for you, a good community member for you. But I lead with curiosity. I lead with genuine inquiry. I lead with also being really receptive to understanding who that person is. So beyond just maybe what it is that they're saying, I really attempt to form an energetic connection and really get and ask deeper questions than sort of just, where are you from? What do you do? Right? But I really want to know more about their journey. I want to understand how they've come to the business that they've come to, if I'm in an entrepreneurial context or a professional context. Right? I want to know more about what's important to them. Who are the important people in their lives? Who are the people that inspire them and motivate them? So you have the opportunity to ask more in-depth questions when you lead with curiosity and really create a space where you're listening, where you're focused, where you're present. So you're not like asking questions and then like your eyes are moving. Y'all know what I'm talking about. We've all been in those situations, those circumstances. But you're really focused. You're really fully present to the person, and you're really engaging, right? I'm going to say to you, whether you're in a professional environment or whether you're in a personal environment, leading with curiosity is important. Going where you feel called, where you feel passionate, doing the things you love to do, yoga, meditation, museums, art performances, right? Gallery openings, any of those kinds of things that are really rooted in your passion. Those are the kinds of things then you get to lean in on, you get to engage in, because often you'll find like-minded people, like-vision people when you're doing things that you enjoy, and hopefully they're out and engaging in the things that they enjoy as well, right? What's up, California? Big up. See you. I see you. So I want to talk a little bit about this part of the tribe where, what if you're in tribe or you're in community and you've got some members of your tribe where it's just not gelling, it's just not jiving, whether it's you've had conflict with them and you've not been able to resolve it in a really good way, or you're in a collaboration and they, for whatever reason, are not showing up consistent with what the agreements of the tribe are. And I do want to talk a little bit about what does it mean to have agreements as a tribe. When you come into community and when you come into tribe, there are spoken and there are unspoken agreements, right? They're always rooted in the quality of the connection. So I would say to you, the deeper the connection, the greater are the unspoken agreements, right? But I would also say to you, when you're formalizing a tribe, when you're coming in and you're just beginning to form as a tribe, it's also good to have agreements on the table, especially if you're partnering and you're collaborating. Who's going to do what? Who's playing what role? How do we honor each other's time? How do we honor each other's perspectives? How do we honor each other's strengths? How do we support and give important feedback around each other's weaknesses, right? These are all agreements that you get to set in a conversation. How often do we get together and engage? And again, if you're in a more formal relationship, more formal partnership or collaboration, it's critical to get those things on the table. If you're in a friendship that is evolving, right? Because sometimes we're in relationships and we're maybe in a friendship that's evolving into a business relationship, or we're in a business relationship that's evolving into a friendship. How are you setting clear parameters around what container you're in, right? I like to, when I'm in relationships, and I have many friends that I do business with, people who I love and adore and would just be there for as friends, but I also have the honor and privilege of doing business with them. Sometimes I need to name the container, right? Okay, this is me speaking as your friend versus, okay, this is me speaking as your coach, right? Or this is me speaking as your collaborator, right? So sometimes when you have those relationships that have multiple containers, you want to acknowledge where you're coming from and where you're speaking from so that the person understands where the perspective is coming from and they can orient themselves accordingly. So back to this idea of if the relationship for some reason is not working, how do you have the conversation? How do you address the agreements? How do you lovingly hold the person accountable? And how do you all make good choices about whether or not it makes sense to continue to associate or to continue to collaborate or to continue to engage? The thing that I'm going to say to you is most important is that when you approach these conversations, you want to be thoughtful. You want to also be really clear that you know and have done your work in terms of what is yours to own and what may or may not be working. And you want to come ready in the conversation to own that which is yours to own. I have a practice and a commitment that anytime I get into a sort of a conflict or a disagreement or I understand something differently, I lead the conversation with listening. And I also then follow up with what is mine to own. What I have found when I step into relationships in that way is that people are often more ready to own what is theirs to own, right? In other words, we set the tone of the conversation. We model with the way that we show up and the way that we take responsibility for our part in any partnership or any collaboration that we're engaged in. The other thing I'm going to say, and this is a big one for people, is being willing to be vulnerable. Being willing to really say, like, for example, if there's a breakdown in the relationship and something was done and you were hurt by it, you know, that's a big one for us to say. Anybody hear what I'm saying? Raise your hand, raise your hearts. That's a big one for us to say, like, yo, you hurt my feelings. Or, you know, I sent you this email and you didn't respond. Or I sent this text. Or I asked you a question. Or, you know, you promised me you were going to show up on this day or that day and you didn't show up and I was really hurt by that or I was disappointed by that. Those are hard things for us to say, but I want you to know that they're necessary, particularly when we have a commitment to having a high quality interaction and a high caliber of relationships in the context of the tribes that we're building, right? We always want to keep this space, what I like to say, clean. Right? So we don't let things fester. We don't let things go a long way. We do our work so that when we come into the conversation, we're really ready to have it. Now, if it's not working out, I want you to also know that person's probably also thinking the same thing. So there's a way that you bringing authenticity, you bringing honesty, you bringing genuine partnership and collaboration and vulnerability to the conversation supports and gives them a lot of permission as well. Not only to own what may not be working, but also potentially to own the agreement that it may make sense to part ways. You know, whether we're talking about personal relationships or whether we're talking about professional relationships, you know, the more that you're willing to bring your full self to that conversation and the more that you're willing to be authentic and fierce and loving, right? And the loving part is important because when somebody upsets you or somebody disappoints you, it can be very easy to point the finger. It can be very easy to come like, okay, I got a lot of drama. I want to get it off my chest. I'm just going to dump it. But I would say to you in every interaction, with every conversation, you always want to be thinking about what's my aim, what's my goal? Even if the goal is to separate, how do you do it where you leave dignity for you and dignity for them? Really, really, really important. You take the time to have those conversations. You create an environment that enables both of you to really focus and lean into each other. So you don't do it in a noisy place. You don't do it when you got a lot going on. You don't do it when you can only give halfway focus, right? You bring the same kind of honor and dignity and integrity and authenticity and vulnerability that you would want to receive with them. Remember, in every relationship, we are modeling what it is that we want to experience. Okay, so I'm going to pause there. And I'm going to say to you that you guys, I promise I will do another post breaking down peers, mentors, advisors, sponsors, mentees, partners, collaborators. That's going to be a second post. I promise I will do one that gives you sort of the designation of the role. That's part 2, but I wanted to address a lot of what we'd seen in the comments about challenges in tribe. And just see if there's anything that you all have questions regarding just even what I've said. What if a conversation has to happen with an extremely emotional abusive person? That's a great question, Shara. So you want to make sure that you've really taken the time to do your own work. So what I would say to you is when I go into heavy conversations with people who I'm not necessarily sure are going to receive me well, I make sure that I've done my meditation. I make sure that I've taken my hot bath. I make sure that I've prayed about the conversation. I've made sure that I've taken time to journal and take really good, take the time within myself to jot down what are the points that I want to make? What are the things that I want to convey? And I come into that conversation both in a very receptive manner, but also in a very calm and centered and clear manner. When you're attempting to have the conversation, if you find that the person cannot receive it, in other words, they keep interrupting you, they keep cutting you off, you may need to lead with listening. And you just pause, be still. This is why your calm and centered demeanor is so important. Because maybe they need to be heard first before they can hear you. Now, what happens if you hear them out, hear them out, hear them out, hear them out, and they still can't hear you? What I want you to know is that they may not be ready. They may not be ready for the conversation that you're bringing. They may not be in a place in the moment even where they can receive it. That doesn't mean that they may not think back on what you've said later. That doesn't mean that you may see them 2 or 3 or 4 months later and they may be in a place where they are more ready for the conversation. But what I do want to caution you around is you guys do not beat people over the head with your opinion. You know, because sometimes we come into the conversation and we think we're right. And I'm going to say to you, being right is the kiss of death. Let me say that again. Being right is the kiss of death. Anytime you think you're right, you're in trouble. So part of the work that you have to do is be willing to be open to a different perspective. And if you find that they can't receive you, no matter how much room you've given them to express, no matter how much you've listened to their perspective, if you find that they can't receive you, you just want to lovingly take them by the hand and say, you know what? I really understand that you got to be heard right now. Maybe you just can't hear me right now. Maybe that's okay. So I want you to know that I've heard you genuinely, if this is true, right? Because that's also where you have to work your own muscles. I've heard you. And I look forward to a time where you and I can get together again and where you really have the room where you can hear and receive me. But in the meantime, I do want to know, what do you need to hear from me in order for you to know that I've heard you, right? What do you need to hear from me? Sometimes you may need to paraphrase back what they've said. Sometimes you may need to apologize or clean something up if that's what's appropriate. Sometimes you may need to acknowledge there was a misunderstanding. So that may not be about apologizing, but that may be about, wow, I hear that we heard different things. Or wow, I received that differently than I just heard you receive that. So I'm glad that you told me that because I realized that we saw that differently, right? That's about acknowledging, right? So you give them what they may need in that moment to enable them to know that they've been heard. Now, if somebody's being cruel or abusive, then you just stop it. Like, I'm sorry, can't do that, right? Can't do that with you. So I'm going to ask you to calm down. I'm going to go calm down. Maybe we set the conversation for another time. But I do want to say to you all, this is never about ever being anybody's doormat, right? So you take the time to really take care of yourself. You come in a clear, confident, calm, centered, peaceful way. You lead with curiosity. You lead with listening. You lead with inquiry, right? You give space for them to express, and then you go to express. And again, you're being really responsible, even in how you're sharing what has occurred from your perspective. You also state your intention. I really want to resolve this. I love you, right? I want to continue this relationship. Or even though we're parting ways, right? Because it may be a situation where you're parting ways. Even though we're parting ways, I want us to part in good stead. So I really want to hear you because you may have important feedback for me. I've got some important feedback for you that I really want to give you, right? And sometimes we ask, like, can I give you some feedback? Right? They may ask you, can I give you some feedback? You know, it's so interesting, you all. When we model well, people really do follow our lead. I really have to say to you all, my experience is time and time again, when we model well, people will follow your lead. If you lead strong, you lead with love, you lead with clarity, you lead with accountability, people will more often than not follow your lead. And if they don't follow your lead, it also is demonstrative, right? You get more information like, wow, they may not be ready. Or wow, I'm really clear that this is something I do want to complete. Or wow, maybe, you know, this person was great for a season and maybe that season has come to an end, right? And that can be okay because you will be making room for other people who will complement your tribe and enhance your tribe in other ways. Okay, I'm pausing. I hope that answered your question, Shara. Any other questions, you all? Feels like this has been a strong one for you all. So I also want to say you can post other questions in the comments section. But I hope what you got tonight was good. You know that I'm going to come back and I will share more about the different aspects of your tribe and how do you build a robust tribe. And like I said, how tribe is really a lifelong journey and the way that we cultivate and curate tribe, the way we prune tribe, right? Kind of like we prune trees, right? So I will continue to be in that conversation in the next post. The last thing I want to do is just say, if you have not already, oh my God, Saturday, October 1st, New York City, Paula Abreu, India Ari, Randy Tate, Naz Haran, you guys, Jenny Blake, you got to be there. You got to be there. I think we have like two days left. I think we're like almost sold out. You know, Stacy helped me out here. Put the link in the bottom. Come join us if you are looking for tribe. If you are looking for your people who are passionate about making a difference in the world, people who are building incredibly profitable businesses that are rooted in their passion, rooted in their purpose, this is the place to be. If you want to come and be inspired, you want to come and build authentic community and robust connections, you want to come and get your learning on about how to take your venture to the next level, whether it's rooted in your, we are almost sold out. That's what I thought, Stacey, right? So, you know, you guys, this is our last moment. And, you know, it'd be my honor to hug you, honor and privilege to hug you in the room. So I so hope, Jennifer. Well, we're going to be sending you love, Jennifer. We will be live streaming next year. This is our one big annual event, but I promise you next year, Jennifer, we will be live streaming so you could be at home holding your newborn and cuddling up and getting your knowledge and your learning and your, you know, getting your well refreshed as you are giving to your beautiful new baby. So proud of that. So proud of that. Congratulations, my sister. But for those of you who are in New York or feeling bold and willing to get on a plane and come see us, come on and check us out. It's going to be an incredible, incredible, amazing day. Again, Stacey's put the link in the chat section. And, you know, it's so funny. I'm almost at a loss of words because I know the power of what Paula's going to bring. This is a woman who, you know, was the first woman in Brazil to do a 7-figure launch in 7 days. And she's going to talk about how you build community. She has a very unique perspective on how do you build platform and how do you build base and how do you cultivate and grow a business. And this is a woman who's done millions and millions of dollars in online launches without spending a penny on ads, not a penny on ads. You want to know what she has to say. And then, of course, India. India is going to be talking about her entrepreneurial journey. She's going to be giving you a sneak peek under the tent of some new music and her upcoming album. She's going to be talking about her new upcoming major campaign, which is all about worthiness. Oh, you guys, I'm telling you, you want to be there. She's going to be joined by Joel Cross, who's a phenomenal singer-songwriter and collaborated with her on this new album. I am at a loss for words other than to say you all just really want to be there. if you feel inspired, you get the hit on this, come click the link, come join us, come meet your tribe, come be in the room, come be fed, come be nurtured, come be supported in whatever it is that you're cultivating and helping you take it to the next level. We're going to be talking about content creation. We're going to be talking about how to monetize your content. We're going to be talking about building authentic campaigns. We're going to be talking about the 9 disciplines of manifestation and how you can utilize these disciplines to manifest anything. You just want to be there. Okay, you guys, enough. You get me. I love you. I hope you got value from tonight's post. I will be back, like I said, part 2 on tribes. Look for me after the summit. I'll also be doing a little debrief and recap. I've been sweet talking India. We'll see whether or not I can get her to come hang out with us. So you guys stay tuned for that. We'll see. But in the meantime, in between time, please know that I love you. I'm thinking about you all. Have an amazing, amazing, amazing rest of your evening. And I will see hopefully a whole bunch of you on Saturday. Big hug, big kiss. This is your girl, Rha. Peace.